but we're not making love no more. These are the times we all wish for.
I was just in my room at the hotel and I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm writing songs that people like, I'm doing this, I'm performing, like busting my tail every night, but I don't feel good.
Woody Rock is finally speaking out about what really happened to Dru Hill and Sisqó. The group was R&B royalty in the 90s, until something sinister happened behind the scenes.
From our understanding, it was Will Smith featuring Dru Hill. But when we got there, it seemed like it was all in the cards for it to be Will Smith featuring Sisqó. Once again, you back to just being here just for the sake of being here. And that was basically my departure.
By 2008, explosive secrets about their collapse were surfacing. Dru Hill was hiding battles that would shock their fans.
The crowd started dwindling. As many people weren't coming to see Dru Hill perform. I think it was a direct cause and effect of what happened with Woody.
This is how the music industry destroyed Dru Hill for refusing to play the game. Dru Hill emerged from Baltimore in the mid-1990s as one of the most promising R&B groups of their generation. The quartet consisted of Mark Sisqó Andrews, Larry Jazz Anthony, Tamir Nokio Ruffin, and James Woody Rock Green. Their harmonious blend of vocals, street credibility, and crossover appeal positioned them perfectly for the evolving R&B landscape of the late 90s. Their debut album, released in 1996, established them as serious contenders in a competitive market dominated by groups like Boyz II Men and Jodeci. Songs like In My Bed and Never Make a Promise showcase their ability to balance romantic ballads with harder-edged urban sounds, appealing to both mainstream and core R&B audiences. But success came with immediate challenges that would foreshadow the group's eventual destruction. From the beginning, Dru Hill found themselves fighting battles that had nothing to do with music and everything to do with respect, fair treatment, and navigating the complex racial dynamics of the entertainment industry. In 1997, just as their career was gaining momentum, the group became involved in a shocking incident that revealed the hostile environment they were operating in. During a meeting at Island Records offices, a label employee struck the group's manager with a pool cue during what should have been a routine business discussion. The assault was serious enough that Dru Hill filed a lawsuit against Island Records and its parent company, Polygram. But the legal proceedings revealed something even more disturbing than the original violence. During depositions, Polygram president Eric Kronfeld made a statement that exposed the racist assumptions underlying the music industry's treatment of black artists. Kronfeld remarked that if he were not to hire African Americans with criminal records, then there would be virtually no African Americans employees in our society or in our industry. The statement was a stunning admission that revealed how the industry viewed black artists as inherently criminal or problematic, regardless of their actual behavior or background. The group eventually settled the lawsuit and remained on the label, but the incident created early tension that would poison their relationship with the industry for years to come. The settlement represented a victory of sorts, but it also established a pattern where Dru Hill would have to fight for basic respect and fair treatment throughout their career. The racist comment from the Polygram executive was particularly galling because Dru Hill had worked hard to present themselves as professional, talented artists who deserved to be judged on their music rather than stereotypes. They had come from Baltimore with dreams of success, only to discover that the industry saw them through a lens of prejudice and low expectations.
We're from Baltimore, and there's a park in Baltimore called Dru Hill Park.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to represent where we were from, so we decided to call.
The incident also revealed the powerlessness that even successful black artists faced when dealing with major labels. Despite their commercial success and growing fan base, Dru Hill learned that they were still vulnerable to both physical assault and verbal humiliation from executives who controlled their careers. This early confrontation with industry racism and violence set a contentious tone that would define their entire career trajectory. The group had achieved their dream of major label success, but they were discovering that success in the music industry came with hidden costs and constant battles that had nothing to do with their artistic abilities. The foundation was being laid for the internal tensions, external conflicts, and eventual collapse that would destroy one of R&B's most promising groups. By 1999, Dru Hill had established themselves as one of R&B's premier groups with multiple platinum albums and sold-out tours. But their success was about to be undermined by the very thing that should have enhanced it: individual recognition and solo opportunities. What began as a chance for creative growth would become the catalyst for jealousy, resentment, and ultimately, the group's destruction.
I came to the label and I was like, we're trying to jam this new version of Dru Hill down their throat, and we got this kind of open window. I want to do a solo.
The trouble started when Sisqó was offered the opportunity to pursue a solo career while maintaining his commitment to the group. His distinctive platinum blonde hair, charismatic personality, and vocal abilities had made him the most recognizable member of Dru Hill, attracting attention from label executives who saw potential for crossover success. Initially, the solo venture seemed like a win-win situation. Sisqó would expand his artistic horizons and increase his earning potential, while the increased visibility would benefit the entire group. The contract renewal with Island/Def Soul even structured the arrangement to balance individual and collective interests, stipulating 4 solo releases followed by a group album. But when Sisqó's solo debut album, Unleash the Dragon, was released in 1999, it achieved a level of success that none of the group members had anticipated. The album's lead single, Thong Song, became a massive international hit that transcended R&B to become a pop culture phenomenon.
Let me see that thong.
The song's success was unprecedented for a Dru Hill member. It reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, earned platinum certification, and made Sisqó a household name far beyond the R&B community. Suddenly, he was appearing on major television shows, gracing magazine covers, and commanding attention that dwarfed anything Dru Hill had achieved as a group. The other members of Dru Hill watched as their bandmate achieved solo success that seemed to diminish their own contributions and importance. Jazz, Nokio, and Woody began to feel marginalized, not just within the group dynamic but in the public perception of what Dru Hill represented.
If it wasn't for Jazz, Nokio, and Woody, I wouldn't be the artist I am today. So it's kind of like a new message, to the rest of the world that, hey, there is more than one member of Dru Hill.
The media began treating Sisqó as the star of Dru Hill, rather than as one member of a collaborative unit. Interviews increasingly focused on him. Photo shoots positioned him prominently, and business opportunities seemed to flow primarily in his direction. The balance that had defined their early success was being systematically destroyed by market forces beyond their control. Behind the scenes, tensions were escalating rapidly. Other group members felt that Sisqó was prioritizing his solo career over group commitments, while Sisqó believed he was taking advantage of opportunities that would ultimately benefit everyone. These conflicting perspectives created an atmosphere of mistrust and resentment that poisoned their personal relationships.
From our understanding, it was Will Smith featuring Dru Hill. But when we got there, it seemed like it was all in the cards for it to be Will Smith featuring Sisqó. Once again, you back to just being here just for the sake of being here. And that was basically my departure.
The financial implications were equally destructive. Solo success meant that Sisqó was earning significantly more money than his bandmates, creating economic inequality within what had been an equal partnership. This disparity affected everything from their living situations to their ability to support their families, adding practical concerns to the emotional tensions. The situation was exacerbated by disagreements over the timing of future projects. In 2000, conflicts arose regarding whether to prioritize solo albums for all members or to focus immediately on a new Dru Hill album. Sisqó advocated for allowing everyone to complete solo projects first, while the others preferred focusing on group work that would restore their collective prominence. These disputes created delays that further damaged their momentum and heightened tensions within the band, setting the stage for the explosive confrontations and member departures that would soon follow. The escalating tensions within Dru Hill reached a breaking point during a European tour that would traumatize the group and trigger the first major departure. What was supposed to be a triumph of international recognition became a nightmare that exposed the group's vulnerability and the dangerous environment they were operating in.
Today, we singing in Paris, we do a show, and even when we got there, some local people told us, y'all gonna be fighting tonight. We looking at them like they crazy.
During a performance in Paris, Dru Hill became involved in a violent altercation that escalated beyond anything they had ever experienced. According to accounts that would later emerge, the incident involved a disgruntled fan who became aggressive during or after their show. The confrontation quickly spiraled out of control, ultimately resulting in gunfire that created genuine fear for the group members' safety. The Paris incident was a turning point that forced the group to confront the reality that their fame had made them targets for violence. For young men from Baltimore who had already witnessed street violence, the idea that their success had brought danger rather than security was particularly traumatic. Woody Rock, who had been struggling with the group's direction and his own personal goals, found the Paris shooting to be the final straw. The violence confirmed his growing belief that the music industry was not the environment where he wanted to spend his life. He had been increasingly drawn to gospel music and spiritual pursuits, and the threat of physical harm convinced him that it was time to make a permanent change.
I was just in my room at the hotel and I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm writing songs that people like, I'm doing this, I'm performing, like busting my tail every night, but I don't feel good. And I just asked the Lord, and just as plain as we're sitting here talking right now, he told me pretty much, you're never going to shine unless you're doing it for me.
Woody announced his departure from Dru Hill shortly after the European tour concluded. His exit was not just about the violence, but represented a broader disillusionment with the music industry's culture and the toll that fame was taking on his personal values and mental health. The loss of Woody was devastating for the group's chemistry and public image. As one of the founding members, his departure suggested that the internal problems were serious enough to drive away core personnel. Fans began to question the group's stability, and industry observers started to view Dru Hill as a potentially troubled act. To compensate for Woody's departure, the group added new member Rufus "Scola" Waller, expanding from a quartet to a quintet for their 2002 album Dru World Order.
It's just been a total plus. They're good people, man. Down to earth. From what I've seen, none of them, they don't trip when it comes to this quote unquote this stardom stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's just what we.
But the addition of a new member couldn't restore the chemistry that had been lost, and many fans rejected the change as an artificial attempt to maintain relevance. The lineup change also created new dynamics that further complicated the group's relationships. Scola was joining an already fractured unit where trust had been broken and resentments were deep. He found himself caught between conflicting loyalties and competing visions for the group's future. Meanwhile, the trauma from Paris continued to affect the remaining members in ways that weren't immediately visible. The incident had shattered their sense of security and forced them to acknowledge that fame came with risks they hadn't fully understood. This psychological impact would influence their decision-making and relationships for years to come. The period following Woody's departure was marked by attempts to maintain normalcy while dealing with the reality that the group was fundamentally changed.
The crowd started dwindling. As many people weren't coming to see Dru Hill perform. I think it was a direct cause and effect of what happened.
The easy camaraderie and shared vision that had driven their early success was gone, replaced by a more guarded and businesslike approach to their collaboration. The Paris shooting and Woody's subsequent departure marked the beginning of the end for Dru Hill as an effective creative unit, even though they would continue to record and perform for many years to come. As Dru Hill struggled to maintain their relevance in the early 2000s, their internal problems began manifesting as public failures that damaged their reputation and credibility. What had once been a professional, reliable group was becoming known for missed commitments, late arrivals, and canceled performances that disappointed fans and alienated industry professionals. The most notorious incident occurred in 2003 during a scheduled performance in Darmstadt, Germany. Dru Hill, including Sisqó, arrived nearly 5 hours late to the venue where hundreds of fans had been waiting. By the time the group finally appeared, the majority of the audience had given up and left the venue. Those who remained demanded refunds and voiced their displeasure loudly and publicly. The German debacle was particularly damaging because it occurred in an international market where Dru Hill was trying to expand their fan base. European audiences were less familiar with the group's internal problems and had higher expectations for professionalism. The failure to deliver a timely performance created negative publicity that spread throughout the European music market. Similar problems plagued their other international commitments. During a scheduled concert in Malawi, the performance was canceled at the last minute due to what were described as promoter and organizational failures. However, the cancellation reflected deeper issues with the group's management and their ability to fulfill contractual obligations.
Fake, like you shouldn't play on the fans' intelligence like that. Like I take the fans very serious, man. Like where I come from, it's like I don't take nothing for granted. Nothing was given to me, so people that go out to purchase my CD, I feel like the least I can do is respect them enough.
These public failures were symptoms of larger problems that were destroying the group from within. Their third album and subsequent comeback efforts were being hampered by poor label support, shifting priorities, and the reality that solo projects were overshadowing group work. The record industry had begun to view Dru Hill as a declining act that was more trouble than it was worth. Being dropped by their label was both a consequence and a cause of their declining fortunes. Without major label support, they lost access to the promotional resources, distribution networks, and industry connections that were essential for maintaining relevance in the competitive music market.
Conversation was that led to the fight?
Nope. The group's inability to tour effectively further compounded their problems. Live performances had always been a crucial source of income for R&B groups, but their reputation for unreliability was making it increasingly difficult to book paying gigs. The economic pressure created additional stress that exacerbated their existing personal and creative conflicts. By the mid-2000s, Dru Hill had become a cautionary tale about how internal conflicts and professional mismanagement could destroy even the most talented groups. Their fall from platinum-selling artists to industry pariahs was swift and seemingly irreversible. By 2008, the disintegration of Dru Hill had become a public spectacle that embarrassed everyone involved and provided a stark example of how fame could destroy friendships, careers, and dreams. The group's final collapse would play out in real time during a radio interview that shocked listeners and confirmed what many had suspected about their internal warfare. During a live radio appearance that was supposed to promote their latest project, founding member Nokio made an unexpected announcement that caught everyone, including his bandmates, completely off guard. He declared that he was leaving Dru Hill permanently, citing irreconcilable differences with the group's longtime manager, Kevin Peck, and fundamental disagreements about the group's direction and business practices. The announcement immediately created chaos in the studio. What followed was a physical altercation between group members that was captured on air, providing listeners with an unfiltered glimpse into the hatred and resentment that had been building for years.
somebody felt disrespected, it was like, hey, you need to, hey man, get him. Hey.
The public nature of the confrontation was humiliating for everyone involved and marked the definitive end of Dru Hill as a functioning unit. Nokio's departure was particularly significant because it left Sisqó as the sole original member of what had once been a four-man group. The exodus of founding members sent a clear message that the problems were too deep and too fundamental to be resolved through normal means. The business disputes that triggered the final breakup were symptomatic of larger issues that had plagued the group throughout their career. In 2015, Dru Hill and Sisqó filed a lawsuit against Kedar Entertainment Group, alleging that the label had failed to promote their albums as promised and had withheld royalties that were rightfully theirs. The legal action sought $1 million in damages per member, highlighting the massive financial losses they claimed to have suffered due to industry exploitation and mismanagement. The lawsuit revealed that even their periods of apparent success had been undermined by contracts and business arrangements that favored executives over artists. Sisqó's individual struggles with record labels provided additional insight into the industry dynamics that had contributed to Dru Hill's destruction. His attempts to involve his own team in production and management decisions were met with resistance from executives who preferred to maintain complete control over their artists. When Sisqó tried to support his community by hiring family and friends for various roles, he was characterized as hard to work with and difficult to manage. This resistance to artist autonomy contributed to professional setbacks that affected not only his solo career, but also his ability to lead Dru Hill effectively. Today, the surviving members of Dru Hill are scattered across different projects and pursuits, with little likelihood of a meaningful reunion. Their legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of industry exploitation, internal jealousy, and the corrosive effects of fame on personal relationships. The dark truth that Woody Rock and others have revealed is that Dru Hill's collapse wasn't just about creative differences or personality conflicts. It was about an industry that systematically destroys black artists by pitting them against each other, withholding fair compensation, and creating environments where survival requires sacrificing integrity, friendship, and artistic vision. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.